It's funny. No one ever said to me in my entire life, you should work at something you love.
Hey Foundr fam, Nathan Chan here, CEO and publisher of Foundr magazine. Welcome back to another interview. Today we have an absolute treat for you. Make sure that if you're liking this interview, give it a big thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe to our channel and make sure you leave a comment below on what questions you have around starting or growing a business. We're here to help however we can. We write back to every single comment. So let's talk about today's guest. Her name's Gail Becker. She's the founder and CEO of a company called Caulipower. She's grown it from zero to over $100 million in annual sales in just 3 years, which is absolutely incredible, insane growth. And I'm going to be really unpacking with her experiences, lessons learned on how the hell she's doing this. So guys, if you are enjoying these interviews, please do make sure you give us a thumbs up and subscribe. And Gail, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me today. The first question that I ask everyone that comes on is, how did you get your job?
Well, I had no experience. So if I applied for the job of being the founder and CEO of Caulipower, I definitely would not have gotten it. And I suppose you could say the only reason I got it is because I made it myself. And I did that because I got really tired and frustrated with seeing what the industry was putting in gluten-free food. I'm the mom of 2 boys with celiac disease, and I got really frustrated. And you could definitely say Caulipower was born out of a frustration of waiting. A few more reasons than that as well, but that's a good place to start.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, look, I actually have a lot of food allergies. So I'm allergic to dairy, egg, sesame, peanut, coconut. All nuts. So I've never had like chocolate or ice cream in my life.
Wow.
So yeah, I don't have celiac, but I understand, like it can be difficult to like navigating to finding like things to eat. I've had food allergies my whole life. So I'd love to hear kind of how did, obviously your 2 sons have celiac and that's how the idea was born, but like when did you start Caulipower? Like how did you just get started?
Sure. Let me take a step back. So I worked in corporate America for many years. I worked in marketing. And after a number of years, I became very disenchanted with what I was seeing in corporate life. And I knew I wanted to make a change, but I didn't really know what that would be. Around the same time, when I started to see all this pent-up frustration that I had, my father passed away. And he was an immigrant to this country. He came here with nothing, and he built a small business, very small business. But he owned his own home and was very proud. And when he passed away, something inside me really changed. And I knew I wanted to do something more meaningful, but I didn't really know what that was. Around the same time, I am the mom of 2 boys with celiac, and I stumbled across cauliflower crust pizzas on the internet. I didn't invent it. The day I looked, there were 569,000 recipes. I picked one. I couldn't even tell you which one I picked. I made it one time. And, a couple of weeks later, one of my sons said, "Hey, Mom, are you going to make that cauliflower crust pizza?" And I said, "There's no way I'm making that again." It took 90 minutes to make a pizza crust after I got home from a full day of work. But I said, "I'll tell you what, I'll find it for you." And I looked everywhere and I couldn't find it. And so I took all 3 of those things, my disenchantment with corporate life, the passing of my father, and this desire to do something that would actually help people, and 3, the realization that I can't be the only person who thinks 90 minutes is too long to make a pizza crust. So I put all those things in a proverbial blender, and what I came out with was, I know I'm going to leave my job and start a company and call it Caulipower. And that was in May of 2016.
Yeah, wow. That's crazy. Because you guys have had incredible growth. I was reading online, like you guys are doing over $100 million a year. Is that correct?
We will do. Last year we touched 100 million. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Wow, that's exceptional growth. So before we get into that, because we were talking offline before we were recording, you know, I was saying maybe starting's the hardest part, and you were saying, oh well, look, don't know, maybe not, maybe where I'm at now is the hardest part. So I'd love to kind of work our way up to the journey, but like exceptional growth. Like I'd love to start with like, okay, for anyone watching, if they want to start like a food brand, like where do you start? What do you do? Like, so you've got like you've got your recipe. Is that proprietary? Did you have to like how do you work that part out to just even begin with?
Yeah, I didn't really have much more than an idea, to be honest with you, and but I knew that, you know, there are lots of ways to start a business, and certainly lots of ways to start a food business, right? You have a particular recipe for something, you make it, you share it with your friends, you take it to the farmer's market, you start selling it around, you sell online. That is a great way to start a food business. That is not my way to start a food business. What I did was quite opposite. I made cauliflower crust pizza one time. I said, I'm never making that again. I did a little bit of research. I saw that I figured that I must not be alone. And so I hired a lot of consultants to teach me about the food business, to help me find a manufacturer, to get started. And I was like a sponge. I'm still like a sponge, to be honest with you. I still learn something new every day. And I think one of the mistakes that a lot of founders make is that, you know, they feel because it's their company that they have to know everything. Really, when you're a founder, you have to be super confident in what you don't know. And then you have to hire around you. And that's what I did. I hired people who knew the business because I didn't. And then for my part, you know, I knew a little something about marketing. And so we became a very marketing-led brand.
Interesting. So you launched in 2016. How long did it take? Oh, sorry.
Well, I was going to say, I left my job in May of 2016. We launched the company in February of 2017.
Okay, so it took you about 8 months, you would say, to work with the consultants to get your first product to market, get the branding, the packaging.
Exactly.
And how did you guys get your first batch of customers? Did you go to the farmer's market, or you went straight to retail, or?
Well, I mean, you know, for me, and again, there is no wrong path, but for me, you know, I did fairly well in corporate America, and I had a good job, and there were lots of perks. And I knew that if I was going to leave all that, I would have to do something that was really going to make an impact. And to be honest with you, I knew that had to be big, that I had to start out big. I also knew that, you know, I wanted to have and capture and leverage that first to market advantage. And that's what Caulipower had the potential to be. So I had to start out big, and I had to capture a lot of, you know, mind share very quickly. So our first customer was actually Whole Foods in the Southern Pacific region, 30 stores. So Whole Foods has this program where if you live in the region, you can pitch your product to the local region. Well, I happen to live in Southern California, so I pitched the local. I literally just brought a styrofoam case full of my first pizzas and left it there. Like, I couldn't even meet with anyone. The assistant said, "No, you can leave it with me. It's like leaving your child with a stranger, you know." And about a week later, you know, you never forget where you are. A week later, I got an email from the buyer at Whole Foods said, "We really liked your product. We're going to bring it into 30 Whole Foods stores."
Wow, that's amazing. Okay, interesting. So, how long did it take? Like, what does it look like when you work with a retailer like Whole Foods? Because sometimes I hear stories where these purchase orders, like you need capital to fund the purchase order and all this kind of stuff. Was that difficult, or was there anything that you had to navigate there that you could share with our audience around that?
Yeah, I mean, look, yes, of course it was hard, and it's very expensive, and depending on the product the startup cost can be tremendous. You know, frozen food is not an easy place to start. I wish someone had told me that then. If they had, I probably wouldn't have done it. But frozen is the most competitive space in the grocery store because it's the most limited. But what I would say is that, I think one of the things that I struggled with very early on is going in, I started in an industry I knew nothing about, which is not always the case. But for me, I wasn't just starting a business, I was learning an entirely different industry. And along with that industry came an entirely different language. There were words and acronyms and processes that I had no idea what people were talking about. And one of the things, and I remember thinking very early on, particularly in the frozen aisle, where we were up against some huge, multinational global corporations, and then there was tiny little Caulipower. And, I remember thinking that I had to pretend to be bigger than I was, right? I had to project that sort of girth. And what I realized really early on is that there's so many people I met along the way, so many buyers, so many retailers, brokers, what have you, who were cheering on, the David, who were cheering on, the founder and the entrepreneur. And I took advantage of that, and I learned from them, and I asked them for help, and they offered me help even when I didn't ask for it. And I listened and I learned. And, those early supporters, within the industry, I will never forget.
Yeah, that's really good advice. So I'm curious, so you got your first purchase order through Whole Foods. They wanted to stock in 30 stores. Obviously you were able to fulfill it, and so you didn't have to raise any capital to fulfill it?
I didn't have to. No, I self-funded my business for initially, not too long after, but I did initially. I used a little bit that my father left me. I used my savings. I maxed out all my credit cards.
Oh,
I
wow.
sold my clothes online. I mean, you name it, I did it.
Wow.
It was part of the journey for me. It's something I never had a chance to do. And, there were, as stressful as it was, there were times in that part of the crazy ride that I really miss, and although I still live very much like that, but it's, it really built a very powerful beginning to the story. And then you asked about funding after that. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So so what happened next? So you were able to fulfill the first purchase order, but you said after that you took on funding. So was that to fulfill, because you guys are in, I've got some numbers here, over 25,000 retailers.
Yes, we were in over 25,000 retailers. So basically we started in those 30 Whole Foods stores. And then from the, and they sold out, and then the distributor sold out. And then we got orders we went to a food show, and, we had people taste our product, and they kept ordering, and we just sort of exploded from there. But so I brought on funding when I was going into Walmart. Walmart was a very early believer in Caulipower. They took a chance on the brand. They took a chance on me, and it's created a really nice, mutually beneficial relationship. But it was a big, hefty lift, and I needed funding to help get into Walmart.
Yeah, I'd love to talk about kind of distributors or brokers. So your first retailer, because we don't usually, a lot of e-commerce brands we talk to, they're generally direct to consumer. Not so much on the retailer wholesaling side. So I'd love to kind of go a little bit deeper with you on that. So once you got into Whole Foods, things really started to take off after the food show, and you guys sold out. And you said you worked with a distributor. So is that how you ended up getting into so many retailers? You work with other distributors and brokers, or you just kind of got your biz dev hat on and just went crazy?
I did hustle. I did definitely hustle. I went on every single sales call myself, and still go to a lot of them. But I would say, so the so the because we are a frozen product, it's really hard to go direct to consumer. We are sold on Amazon and we do very well on Amazon, but frozen shipping is still very expensive. So it's really hard to build a business around a frozen ship product. So that much I knew, even though that would have certainly been a much easier way to go. So what ended up happening is ultimately when you go through retail, the distributors for the most part become your customers. Some retailers buy direct, which is great, but a lot go through distributor. Well, I had no idea of any of this. And so like, I remember I didn't even really know what a distributor was. And, I remember there was this really interesting push and pull between Whole Foods and their distributor. So, but because it was only 30 stores for Whole Foods, which, they have 400. And so they were trying to get the distributor to bring us in. Well, the distributor was like, well, I'm not going to, just like this little brand that is just going to go in 30 stores and you didn't order very much of it. Why should I bring you in? And so there, I got stuck in the middle of this push and pull. And I remember, and they were based up north, the distributor in Northern California. So I actually lied and I said, hey, I'm going to be up north next week, or like tomorrow. I think I said, I'm going to be up north tomorrow. Could I stop by? I could bring you a drink from Starbucks. And she said, well, we really don't take meetings. I'm sorry. So I said, okay. And then a couple hours later, she said, well, actually, I haven't had a Frappuccino in a while. And I said, oh my God. I said, great. And I literally drove to the airport and got on a plane, went to Northern California, stopped at Starbucks, got her a Frappuccino. And from there, she bought into the Caulipower mission, and she brought us on. And I have tons of stories like that through a lot of our retailers and a lot of our distributors.
Yeah, wow, that's a great story. Wow, this is crazy. So,
it is crazy. It is nothing but crazy. Absolutely.
So, I'm curious as well around kind of the product. And the early stages where you said you worked with a lot of consultants. Can we dive a little deeper there? Like how many, who, like what were their skills and expertise? And because I think that's really smart and that's a really good takeaway, because sometimes when people say, yep, I want to start a business, don't know where to start. Maybe they do have an idea, but they feel so helpless because like they don't have that support. They don't know anything, because that's usually often the case. You don't know anything about the industry. You just got a passion for it or scratching the itch. Yeah. So yeah, I'd love to hear about that.
I did have a lot of consultants, and it was really important for me to be a sponge. And I had different consultants to teach me different parts of the business. So, I had one that really walked me through manufacturing and helped me find a manufacturer and explained to me what that process was like. I had a consultant to teach me sales because I didn't really know what sales were. And I remember like for days, he flew to Los Angeles and we would just, for 3 days, just went to different grocery stores. And we just walked through the aisles and he would tell me how it worked and, and told me what the buyers did and what the brands do. We're the manufacturer in this ecosystem. And so, and I basically, hired someone to teach me almost every part of the business until I could afford to hire people. And, I think when I talk about Expo West, we went to that first show where was really the show that defined us and introduced us to a lot of people. There were 3 employees at Caulipower. There was myself and this woman who helped me fill out like just an inordinate amount of paperwork, and then my sales guy. And, that weekend we cooked probably close to 1,200 pizzas, which it has to be some kind of Guinness Book of World Record. But yeah, and then we just grew from there.
Yeah, wow. And, oftentimes it's actually quite difficult to find good help. Like good consultants, good agencies. How did you know if they were legit or like the real deal that could really help you and they're the right people to learn from?
It was hard. I made some really good choices, and they were informed, and I got referrals, and then I took a lot of flyers, and those worked out well, and I took a couple of flyers that didn't work out so well, and as I grew, as the brand grew, we got more choices. There are a couple early on that those were my only choices. I only had that to do. I could only find this broker to help me, and I could only, the bigger we got, the more that I was had a little bit more sway to try and convince other people to work with us or work for us or help us in some way.
Yeah, okay, interesting. So I'd love to talk more about that growth around how many retailers, the explosion of the brand, because obviously it's a great product. And you said something interesting to me at the start where you said you wanted to go big, you wanted to really take the market. Is that because you wanted to be a category king in this space? And I'd love to talk about like the mindset there and how you've really grown this brand. Like, what do you think it is besides having a really great product?
I think it's three things, to be honest with you, at least in the case of Caulipower. I think one, our timing was, really good. In fact, I could argue that, maybe it should have even been a little sooner, but the timing was spot on. We caught the wave of a number of different trends that for whatever reason, the big guys didn't see. They were sort of hiding in plain sight. And, I always say I didn't invent cauliflower crust pizza, but I just brought it to life and made it more accessible to people. The second thing that I think we did right was our marketing. I think we approached, because we were outside of the industry, we approached everything in a bit of a different way. Our packaging, the look, the feel, the taste, all of it, the stores that we sold, we just, we broke a lot of rules in our marketing. We have a bit of a, funny, irreverent voice. We don't take ourselves too seriously. We like to bring joy to people. And that was, very different than a lot of what was out there. And three, I would say that if the old adage is true about real estate, location, then, it's even more true in food. Taste. And, I think we offer, a superb product that no one else has been able to replicate.
Yeah, I love it. And I'd love to talk about the marketing piece because it sounds like you've done really well in corporate America. You were at Alderman and also VP of Comms at Warner Home Entertainment. You spearheaded PR, so you've got some great experience there. I'd love to tap into that a little bit because when you think about retailers, you think about the refrigerated area. Your everyday consumer, they probably don't know Caulipower, right? But they're going to you're going to be amongst a sea of different other products. So were you very strategic there on the branding and the design and the packaging to really stand out amongst the sea of other products?
Yes, absolutely. In fact, I think when an entrepreneur starts out, you have to figure out pretty early on for you what rules you're going to follow and what rules you're going to break. And for us, one of the rules that we broke is we're not going to have our box look like everybody else. In fact, we're going to put big black letters right over the pizza, which, I can't tell you how many times people said to me, you don't want to do that. Or, I had graphic designers say, oh, let me fix that for you. But, it really worked for us. And, it was different and we stood out. And I think that definitely had a positive impact.
Yeah, no, I think that's really, really smart. I'd love to talk to you as well about kind of, as the business has grown, how has things been on the team building side? Because to support a size of company that you've built in such a short amount of time, especially for your first company, it's so impressive. Like, how's things been on the team side? And, Yeah, like even bringing manufacturing, like you must have so many, like you must have warehouses all over the country storing, and like you have to have these big refrigerators, like how, like that side of things must be really challenging, right?
Well, there are a lot of like cold storage facilities and so forth around the country that pay to store, your, it's all part of the supply chain. Yeah, as for our team, it's funny. We have two types of people at Caulipower. I always say we have the type of people who have worked in food for many, many years, and they love working in food, and they worked in some big food, and they worked in small food, and they just have always worked in food. And I learned so much from them, and they really come with a really great perspective. Then we have the people like me who just wanted to take a chance and just wanted to try something entirely different, and never worked in food a day in their life, but always loved it and wanted to try and was intrigued with Caulipower and, took a chance. And so it's a really interesting and dynamic mix of people that has resulted in what is undoubtedly the best team in the business. I mean, I am amazed at what this team is able to accomplish on any given day and every given day, particularly through the pandemic, which in and of itself has just presented a number of challenges, not just for Caulipower, but for all food companies. But the team is not just brilliant and, experts at what they do. They're really passionate. And I don't think that's easy to replicate. And I don't think a lot of other companies, particularly, in big food, have been able to replicate that passion. And I think it's our secret sauce.
How did you find those people? Because usually what happens with a company is as they grow through certain stages, some people, it's just a different way, a different way of operating. How did you find those right people and really navigate that along this journey?
Certainly referrals, certainly LinkedIn and all of that. And then, as we got bigger and bigger, people would send us their resumes. I mean, I think I was shocked the first time that someone sent me their resume. I'm like, really? You want to work here? It was great. And it was, I think a lot of people end up leaving corporate America because they are looking for something more. They are looking for a different, cultural experience. They are looking for a workplace that is very welcoming and inclusive. And that doesn't always happen, in corporate life. And so I think we've been able to maintain that, and it's very precious, and we're very, we never want to disturb that. And, I'm so fortunate that, we still have that today.
Yeah, no, amazing. And I'm curious as well, when it comes to like the speed of growth, where do you find that you've spent most of your time? Is it in product? Is it in marketing? Or is it in hiring and team building and leadership? To get that kind of growth, if you could give us a breakdown of your time, where do you think majority is spent? Or is it 75% product, 25% marketing, and 5% team? Or you get what I mean? I'd love to know.
Yes, and yes. It's 100% all of those things. How about that? I don't know. The clock seems to have gotten more hours in it since I started Caulipower. So, look, I'm a big believer in hiring the best people and listening to what they say and let them do their thing. And I do that. I'm obviously very close to marketing just because that was where I came from. And I feel like I have, I always want to make sure that our tone and our brand always comes through. And I'm obviously very close to that. Innovation is another area that, personally I love. It's the core of Caulipower. We are continuously innovating. We have some new products coming out in early 2021. And, we like to be first. We like to be never before done. And, all of our products, that has served us very well. And then obviously, trying to, build the team and oversee operations. And I have a wonderful chief operating officer who oversees our operations. But obviously, there are a lot of things that require, my time. And so it's probably The answer to that question probably varies week to week. Some weeks it's just operations, some weeks it's just team, some weeks it's just marketing. But it all gets pretty evenly split across the year.
Yeah. Okay. And when it comes to products, obviously you started with the pizza base, and now you've moved on, and you've produced other products. How do you know when to work on that next product?
Well, so most people don't realize that, it takes at least about a year to get from your brain to your stomach, right? So if you conceive something and about a year later, you can actually eat it and, buy it and eat it. Probably, and that's generous. Some things take much longer than that. I have products that have taken much longer than that. So it's important then to continuously be innovating, because we've tried a lot of products that have never seen the light of day because we just couldn't get it right. And so we spend X amount of months on something and then we have to scrap it because it's just not working. And then we move on to the next one. So we always have a number of different product innovations going on at the same time. Everything that we make at Caulipower has to sit at the intersection of taste, health, and convenience. So I think when you go down the freezer aisle, it's really easy to get one of those things. And, if you're lucky, you can get a fair amount of products that have two, but trying to capture all three of those things is really, really hard. And at Caulipower, we don't innovate or launch anything that doesn't meet those three attributes.
Interesting. So when you said some don't work, how do you know if they don't work? Do you do a small test run in a few stores in Walmart, or do you bring in?
In manufacturing, it just doesn't work. We can get the nutritionals right, but it doesn't taste right. It doesn't taste good enough. Or you can get the taste there, but the nutritionals aren't good enough. Or the price comes so high, no one's going to buy it. So it really is like a very delicate dance. I can tell you a funny story about our chicken tenders, which are very popular. So we used to have a baking mix that we had for a while. It was just sort of becoming popular. It hadn't been in market too long. And we were contacted by one of the people we sourced one of the ingredients from. They couldn't make it anymore. And that would have meant a 6-month delay in getting that product again, making that product. So I made the decision to just kill it.
Wow.
And that was hard. That was really hard because I had spent a long time coming up with it, long time and a lot of money. I had a bag from, lying around, and I thought, one day I thought, I wonder if you could coat a chicken with that and then put it in the air fryer. I just sort of thought, I bet you could. So I did. I took the old bag of, baking mix. I put I coated chicken tenders around it. I put it in the air fryer. And when it came out, it was fantastic. And I served it to my husband. I didn't tell him what it was. And he's like, and he just kept eating it. And I said, isn't that good? And he's like, yeah, they're chicken tenders. And then I told him, and, it's a great example of, how even something, how something can always come out of nothing. Even, look, you, as a founder, you fail so many times. I have failed so many times. And sometimes even the failures are for a reason. And, our chicken tenders could never have been born if we didn't fail at the baking mix.
Yeah, that's a great story. And you strike me as someone that is quite fearless. The fact that, you had a crack at this brand because, for your two sons, and that's how it kind of was brought to life. But, you said you maxed out your credit cards, you took all your savings and put everything you had into this in the early days, and you didn't know what you were doing. You didn't know, did you know it would work? Like, has that always been there?
No, of course not. I mean, never in a million years. Never in a million years. I thought I'd have a nice little business. Maybe I could, just have pay for the roof over my head and, have a nice job and not have to work in corporate life anymore and maybe hire a couple of people. And that was sort of it. I wish I could tell you that, I always knew that this was what it was going to be. I certainly did not. And I think that's okay. And I think that is what made me fearless because, when you started the call, you said that, this is a lot of people who are early in the journey listen to this podcast. And you said it was much harder then than it is now. And I sort of challenged you on that because the difference is, now I know what it could be. And that makes the stakes so much higher. And there's so many more people depending on me and depending on the business and depending on the food to be on shelves. And I feel that pressure every single day. And there was something, and if you do have young entrepreneurs listening to this, I just want to remind them to cherish that time, working in your home office. I mean, now we're working in home offices for different reasons, but I worked in my home office for 9 months before anyone knew what the hell I was doing. And I really oftentimes miss those times because, I wasn't risking anything because it wasn't anything. So, so just remember to cherish that time because, it won't always be like that.
Yeah, no, that's great advice. And I'd love to know kind of what's next, like what's exciting for you. Incredible growth, like amazing success for your first business. What's next?
We have a bunch of new products coming out that I'm very excited about, some new categories that we haven't been in before. And I'm very excited for that. I also look forward to a day when, when the pandemic is, starts to wane and we can resume normal life and I can see, all the Caulipower team again, because I miss them all very much. We're all working remotely. And I'm missing other people in the food and Foundr community. We were all very close. It was a very tight knit community. I mean, if you think about it, think about how welcoming the food business is, even for someone like me that had no experience in it. I mean, if I had gone into the copper pipes, would the copper pipe industry have welcomed me so much? I don't know. Maybe they would have. I don't know. But whatever industry that your listeners are in, it's just, it's a really special time starting the business.
Yeah, I agree. So I'd love to hear your take. Do you think now is a good time to start a business or it's a risky time because of everything that's going on?
I would argue, and in fact I have, I would argue it's a really good time to start a business. And I'll tell you why. A lot of times, myself included, I tried to start the business when I was working in corporate America. But you know what? I couldn't because the job was too big. I traveled all the time. I had 2 kids to take care of. There was no time. There was no time I had to try and start this business between the hours of 2 and 4 a.m. And I finally realized I can't do this. Well, one of the things that, COVID has brought, we're all at home. There's no travel. Lots of people are working from home. So why not use that extra time to build something and to follow your passion and to do something that you really love? I mean, no one, it's funny. No one ever said to me in my entire life, you should work at something you love.
Really?
No one ever said that to me. You should be successful. You should do this. You should, keep climbing the corporate ladder. But no one ever said, just do something you love. Just spend time doing something that makes you happy. No one ever said that. And I think one of the things that the pandemic has done is it's made us all sort of reprioritize life, right? We realize how important it is to spend time doing things that you love, because quite frankly, we don't know what tomorrow brings. And so I think, when you think about that sort of recognition of the fragility of life, you look at your ability and your time to spend time creating something that you never could have in the old universe. Plus, there's never been more problems to solve. There has never been more problems to solve than there are right now. So if you take all of those things and you put them in your proverbial blender, then what are you going to come out with? You're going to come out with, now is a perfect time to start your passion.
Yeah, I agree 110%. Yeah, it is a crazy time right now, but yeah, look, there are a lot of problems, and that's how a lot of really successful companies have started during a recession. And yeah, so, well, look, we have to work towards wrapping up. It's been a great conversation. Really enjoyed this, Gail, and I'm just so amazed by the success you've had. It's just incredible. Did you have any kind of final words of wisdom that you'd like to share before we wrap up?
Well, it's something I say quite a bit, but I started this business a little bit later in life, right? And I think there's never which makes you think about time and the right time to start a business. And what I always say is, starting a business is like having kids. If you wait for the right time, you're never going to do it. There is no right time. No, there's no little magic bell that you're going to hear twinkling in the night that's going to say, oh my gosh, now's the perfect time. So you just have to do it, and you have to bet on yourself, because no one else ever will.
Yeah, I agree 110%. And where's the best place people can find out more about Caulipower?
Go to eatcaulipower.com is our website. You can also follow us at Caulipower on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and I have a special coupon for your listeners.
Oh, amazing.
Free product.
Wow.
Free product. All they have to do is DM us at Caulipower and on social, and use the code Foundr, Foundr, and we will send you a coupon for a free product.
Wow, amazing. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. No, it's our pleasure.
The Foundr mission is to help you create an ass-kicking business and help you learn straight from the mouths of world-class founders. Get your free printed edition of Foundr magazine featuring Sir Richard Branson. Just cover shipping and handling at foundr.com/Branson.